is a beautiful mess. A beautiful mess. Yeah. Life is a beautiful mess. A beautiful mess. Yes. Life is a beautiful mess. A beautiful mess. I'm trying, I'm crying, I feel like I'm dying.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Being Human and Other Shit. I have my lovely little co-host, Melissa. And today we have Cristal. She's our beautiful guest.
Hello. So today we are recording from the ancestral homelands of the Miwok people. We acknowledge them as the past, present, and future caretakers of this land. And we have the lovely Cristal with us today. She's actually a coworker of mine and a friend. And she's going to talk to us a little bit about living with lupus. And I know that it could be different for everybody, but she's going to share her story and hopefully give some insight, provide maybe a little bit of comfort to those of you that are struggling with it, and go from there. We'll see what your story is. So if you can just start with just your background, who you are, where you come from, and then who you be, and then we'll go from there.
I be Cristal. Wow, this is tough. Who I be?
This is really the question every time.
I know.
Man,
it's so,
who am I?
I am a person.
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Bakersfield. Well, technically a small town, Whitley, and then I moved back to Bakersfield. So I'm just someone who grew up in the country. I grew up on 5 acres of land with like goats and pigs and cows. And
love that.
I grew up in a town that it was probably back then population like 3,000.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah. We didn't have anything. We had a gas station, we had a taco place, like we had it was all mom and pop. And so we had to get really creative with the stuff that we did do. Like, I mean, our closest like Walmart was about maybe like 45 minutes away in Visalia.
That's crazy.
And there's nothing to do in Visalia. So we really had to get creative.
I was like, damn, when you have to shout out Visalia, and there ain't shit to do there either.
It's literally
no, there isn't.
Just the Walmart.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was Walmart. There was a Taco Bell, which was important. Like we had little coffee places where we would drive 45 minutes to get like our Frappuccino. Cause that's what we were so excited to have a Frappuccino in high school. Like,
I couldn't imagine an hour and a half round trip to get a freaking taco and
gosh damn bean burrito from Taco Bell.
It was the thrill of a lifetime driving over there.
I bet when you're a kid, you just have all the time in the world. That round trip is nothing.
Yeah, shit, we kicked that Jack in the Box in Lodi.
Yeah.
Hours. Jack, green burrito, whatever.
Awesome. Yeah. Cool. So did you, in Bakersfield, was your like extended family there too, or was it just pretty much your immediate?
My whole family lives in Bakersfield.
You guys were all 3,000?
Yeah. No, well, Woodlake is the other one.
Okay.
So Woodlake, my parents moved us from Bakersfield when I was in like 2nd grade because my dad didn't want to raise us in a city. He was like, I don't want to raise them around crime. I don't want to raise them around any of that. Like, I want to take them to the country. And so that's where I spent like 2nd grade on to high school. And then I moved back to Bakersfield.
How was that culture shock when you moved back? For
me, because I was younger, it wasn't so bad. And like going back to, I was like, oh, it's like, it was a little bit intense because there was everything. So I ate out all the time. I was like, oh my God, everything's right here.
Yeah.
But for my brother, it was a real struggle whenever we moved over because he was in like 7th grade or 8th grade. I can't remember whenever we moved and he hated it.
Yeah. You hear that a lot where kids, especially the ones whose parents are like, I don't want to be in a big city or like small town. Mm-hmm. Then they get to a city and they're like the first people to get mugged. You know, just in their wallets out and like counting I only have $7,000 on me right now. Yeah.
You know what? Whenever I moved to Fresno, my first weekend, my husband's car got stolen.
Oh my gosh.
See what I'm saying?
And I was like,
you were flaunting your car.
Yeah. Yeah. His Kia Optima.
Doing big things, yeah. It's like moving to the country, there's still weird shit that happens out there, you know, like it's just not as populated. And so like
it's just creepier stuff.
Like the crimes are just like fall under the radar.
Yeah, that's the creepy shit. Okay, so you moved back to Bakersfield when you were in high school, you said, or after high school?
No, after high school.
After high school, then now you're in Fresno.
Mm-hmm.
You got your
Yes.
Melissa coworker. So when did you start noticing some like health stuff?
So it's interesting because I've always had stuff going on. Like when I was young, probably around like 4 or 5. And like I barely like tied everything together within the last couple of years. But when I was younger, I constantly had to do blood work because my lymph nodes on my neck were swollen. And the doctors couldn't figure out why. Like, she's fine. She's not saying that she's in pain. She's not hurting. And my mom kept all of my medical records. She was in the healthcare. So she'd be like, oh, let's print out everything constantly.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe like a year ago, I started to like look back into that. And in one of the doctor's notes, it said possible autoimmune disease, just not identified. Like with autoimmune disease, it's very hard to diagnose. And people don't get diagnosed right away. It takes a lot of different blood tests. And there's not just one thing that you can look at and be like, yes, you have lupus. It's like a series of things that you have to do. And so they said that it was an underlying possible thing. So I was like, oh my God, how interesting. Like that could have been it at that point. And we could have known like way back then when I was 5.
Oh, that's damn. Crazy. It went all the way back to 5.
Yeah.
Well, people listening, because I don't think we actually said it. That is what this episode is about.
I said living.
Oh, okay. I was like, I don't know if we actually said that. And we just got into it. Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah. So
that's 5 years old. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this was all happening at what age when you were like looking back at the paperwork?
What was that?
And what age were you actually looking back at that paperwork? Like, damn, they said this at like 5 years old.
It was just a few years ago. Cause I was like, because I got diagnosed in 2019. So
how old were you then, if you don't mind me asking?
How old am I now?
Great question.
I'm 35 now.
Okay.
So it was, I mean,
33.
Yeah.
8 solid years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I had always felt really tired, and like I would put it on myself like, oh my God, I'm so lazy. Like, why am I so lazy? But fatigue is a big thing of lupus, and it literally feels like you just worked out for like 5 hours. Mm-hmm. And you know, whenever it's really hard to like lift up your arm or your body, that's the way it feels when you're fatigued. And that's just the physical part of it. Whenever it's mental, you're like, I don't even want to hear a noise. Like, I'm just so drained. And I always thought like that was normal for me. Like I didn't know. So like being in pain and having these things, I just thought like, man, everybody feels like this, you know?
Yeah. It's hard too, because a lot of the symptoms, or what I know of, and I'll have you go into a little bit more of like what lupus actually is. But from what my understanding, a lot of them mimic other things, mimic mental health, mimic, a lot of different things that could be going on. So that's probably what also makes it super hard to diagnose. Yep. Like, what's the other one? Rheumatoid. Arthritis, like that's something that they're saying like is related to mental health, or at least that's what my rheumatologist was saying. Yeah.
Really?
Oh. Yeah. So I don't know that again, I'm not a doctor. I don't know. This is just like the information that
I feel like any medical diagnosis is going to be somewhat like fucking up your mental health, right? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
We'll get into that more with you, but like, I do imagine it all goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
Yeah. It plays a huge toll on you mentally. Like I said, I always thought like, oh my God, I'm so lazy. Why am I so lazy? And it was really depressing because it's debilitating, where I'm like, I can't do that. Like, I can't do something because I feel like crap. And I'm the type of person where I'm like, I don't want to bring anybody down around me. So it's like constantly like painting that smile on and being like, I'm fine. And it's such a invisible disease that like, I'm fine. Like I look fine. I look healthy, but like on the inside, I'm like, oh my God, it hurts to walk. Like I can't even, like it hurts.
So what are some of the symptoms that what exactly is lupus? You said an inflammatory.
Yeah. So basically,
autoimmune disease.
Yeah. What the best way that I describe it to people is like my immune system is overactive. So it's not only trying to fight the bad things, it's fighting my organs as well. So I just like picture little ninjas in my body, like stabbing everything, like, you know, like overactive. Yeah. Like,
yeah.
Yeah. So that's the way I tell people, like, that's what it is. It's just overactive. So it's trying to get everything. So one of the things that I really have to look out for, like, I have to listen to my body. And the more that I do that, the more I'm proactive about things versus reactive. So if I start to feel bad, and I've gotten better about like with it, is whenever I start to feel bad is like listening to myself and saying like, you know what, you need to stay home. Like you need to take a breather. Because I used to push through it. Even before I knew I had lupus, like I would work out and be like, oh, I'm just going to push through this. I'm just going to push through this. And I thought like, that's what you do when you work out, you know, you push yourself. But physically, I can't do that because if I do, I'm in so much pain afterwards. And I never knew why. And so listening to my body has been really, really important for me through this. So if I start to feel anything, I'm like, where's my heating pad? You know, like I'm going to start taking my medication. And then hopefully I can prevent it before it gets too bad. But there are times when I'm like, oh, like, or I'm on a trip and I didn't bring like the steroids to help me keep it at bay. Like it can get really bad.
I'd imagine.
Is it like, so you said it's in your body gets inflamed?
Mm-hmm.
So is it like, I don't know what my question was going to be. I just totally lost it.
So to kind of the average person, whenever they do your blood work, the normal rate for your inflammation level is, I think it's like 20 to 22 for a normal person. Like that's your normal. If you're at 20 or like a little bit above, you have some kind of like infection going on, or you have some kind of inflammation in your body. When I did my blood work, when I got diagnosed, I was at 176.
Holy shit.
Wow.
So, and for me, they were like, oh my God, are you in pain? And I'm like, no, because it was my normal.
Yeah. Your baseline
used
was
to that.
That was my baseline where I was like, oh, okay. Like, well, yeah, it does hurt when I walk. Like my knees are a little bit sore, you know.
Isn't that
like,
normal?
Yeah. And so after that, they were like, oh no, you need to go see the rheumatologist. So I had to do like series of blood work for that.
What are your like most frequent symptoms? You could do past, and if they're still the same, what your current symptoms are that you typically deal with?
So with lupus, typically people also have other autoimmune diseases linked to it. Typically people that have lupus have other autoimmune diseases. Wow. So I do as well. I have Sjogren's, which is like dry mouth, dry eyes, dry skin. And it's really bad for like your kidneys, which also gets impacted by lupus.
So a double whammy. A double whammy? Then?
Yeah, it's a double whammy. Yeah. So like part of my symptoms along with that, like I have really dry eyes. My eyes are constantly in pain. Dry mouth, which is super bad for dental. So it like leads into like teeth and everything and having to get treatment for that. Joint pain has been really bad. It's been really bad for my feet. So like sometimes at night I can't walk, like just to walk, it's excruciating pain. So knees, feet, like elbows, arms, anything that has a joint that can like, you know, move over. That's what hurts the most for me. When I do go into the sun, the most common thing is like people get a rash right here and it's the butterfly rash, but I get it on my chest. So if I get that sun, it looks like I have like hives all on my chest.
And this is like, like this could be daily.
Oh yeah, it's if I'm in the sun, period. So for me, it doesn't itch or anything. It's just physical where I'm like, oh my God, like this looks bad. And like, I know people can see it because it's bright red right on me.
Yeah.
It isn't like with lupus, there are so many things that different people go through with lupus. Like every single person is different with their journey with it. And I see people that I'm like, oh, my dog's going to start barking right now. Sorry. I see people that have it way worse than me. One of the things that when I got diagnosed is that they told me, you should join little groups and talk about it. And like, you can hear people's different experiences. And for me, I did it. And then I had to step away from it. I was like, I can't do that. It was too much for me. It was like hearing the different things that I could possibly go through. And like, I'm very fortunate with my symptoms right now that like, yes, they're tough, but they're not the worst. You know what I mean? Like I was following someone who she ended up having a stroke just recently because of it. And she can't walk or anything right now. And I just I shut myself down and I'm like, I can't see that because it scares me where I'm like, oh my God, if I'm not careful or like something can happen and I'm going to be in that spot. Yeah. So it's really hard. Like it was supposed to be for me like a tool where I could be like, oh, people feel like me, but it just put me in like a depressive mental state where I was like, I can't do that.
I love being honest about that too, because I do feel like people get really weird about that type of stuff, even with like AA and NA and any type of, like health stuff, support groups. I think I've said this on a past episode. Not everybody needs that kind of support. Mm-hmm. And to be honest, some of those organizations end up being kind of cliquey. It's almost like sometimes people will compete for like who's had a worse day with their lupus, who's more in charge of their recovery, So I'm glad that you're being honest about that, because sometimes seeing that stuff almost does make you feel worse, where it's like, this is actually hurting me. This is not helping me,
Yeah, that's exactly how I felt, where I was like, this is really bad for my mental state. And the way that I felt better about it is like, I have met people that also have lupus. And hearing them say like, oh my God, it's hard every single day. And like hearing them say that, I'm like, yes, you understand. Because personally, it's very hard for me to let other people see me hurt. Mm-hmm. And I can't, I hate it so much. I hate the attention of being like, oh my God, are you okay? Like, yeah. I don't like that attention. I'm like, oh, I'm fine. Even though I'm like in the inside, I'm like, I just want to go home and lay down and not move.
Yeah.
I will say I have the pleasure of being a partner with her in the role that I'm in, and she's the most reliable person. I'm glad that you are honest when you're struggling, but you're always like, how can I make this work? How can, so bubbly, so like positive all the time, and just this like beam of light. So I feel blessed to be able to work with you.
Thank you. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of effort.
It really does show you don't know what anybody's going through. Yeah. You really don't ever know what some people are better at, like you, better at being like, hey, I don't want to be in this situation, so I'm just going to push through. And some people, it's like, they can't be quiet about it because they're just so much pain,
Fortunately, I've been more comfortable talking to like the people close around me about it. Mm-hmm. And I've been more vocal with my friends, like, hey, I'm not having a good day. Like, I can't go. And I had some friends that were staying with us for a while, and they never saw me like hurt or anything, but because they were living with us for a while, they saw more of it, where I was like, I'm just going to go in the room and like turn off the lights and just like lay there. So that was an interesting perspective for them, because I do always just like put on a face. And last night I went to a Christmas dinner, and on the way there, like the fatigue just hit me, and I got really emotional because I was like, I hate this. Like, I hate this so much. And I just sat there and I was like, I feel like there's so much weight on me.
Mm-hmm.
And I told my husband, I was like, I need an energy drink. I need something to like liven me up before I get there, because I don't want to get there and be like, oh, you know, I'm so tired, or I feel like this. So it's like, even putting it on after that is exhausting for me, where I'm like, I'm just drained, you know?
Well, I don't even know if this is accurate, but you do seem like the couple times I've talked to you, you seem really outgoing and bubbly. And sometimes those personalities, when you're in those social situations, people depend on you to be the like fun person at the party. And sometimes it's like, no, I don't fucking want to be the clown of this party, dude.
Yeah, that's when I end up being like, I don't want to go. Like, I can't. It's so exhausting to like put it on, you know? And like I said, I'm the type of person where I'm like, if someone, even like someone who knows what I'm going through, they're like, how are you feeling? And it's like in that setting, I'm like, oh, I'm great. I'm like, yeah, I'm doing good. You know, I don't want
to be a Debbie Downer and be like,
yeah,
oh, my feet are fucking killing me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I
understandable.
really wish I was in my bed right now. Yeah, I don't want to do that. I don't like to bring people down. Like I don't. And I know it's people that are supportive for me, so they really care, which makes it like hard too. If you ask any of my friends, they're like, oh yeah, she's really private. And it's like, well, if I told you, it would be like constantly like, wah, wah, like, you know.
I can get that. So as far as your journey with it so far, so 2019, about 2 to 3 years, 2 to 3 years. Have you had any, you've had, I know, a surgery, have you had multiple surgeries, or what kind of treatment have you had thus far?
Interesting, because whenever I was diagnosed, it's when I was hospitalized. So I was hospitalized for meningitis. So I got meningitis, didn't know what it was. Like, even whenever I was in there, the doctor was like, she's fine. I have a high pain tolerance.
Yeah. Well, you're used to it since you were
she's fine. Yeah.
Your whole life.
She's fine. Just give her morphine a few times. And I was like, I'm still in pain. Like, I'm still in pain. And so with meningitis, they do like a head thing, like drastically.
What is meningitis?
It is.
I don't know shit about shit. Sorry.
It's okay. I don't really. It's swelling of the brain and the spinal, like.
Yeah, I was like, I know that it like impacts people's necks, right? Because don't they touch like this way too? And
yeah, they go. The doctor literally grabbed my head and was like, up, down. And if you have like stiffness whenever that happens, then you have meningitis, so you get tested for meningitis. But it's I think I want to say it affects like the spinal. Something with the spinal cord.
Like the fluid in the spine,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Maybe some sort of infection like in the spinal cord fluid. I don't know.
Yeah. So it's inflammation of the brain too. My brain felt like it was going to burst through my skull.
Oh gosh.
It's technically like the worst headache in the world that you could have. So like any movement, I was in excruciating pain. And so they did a spinal tap on me and they were like, you have meningitis. And there's 2 different types of meningitis. There's bacterial and viral. So at that point, they don't know what it is. They just know it's meningitis.
Yeah.
So bacterial is super contagious and the other one isn't. So they looked at me and they're like, we need to get you in isolation right now. Yeah. And I was with my mother-in-law, my grandmother-in-law, and my husband. And I was like, you need to get her out of here because she's older. And I felt bad. I was like, oh my God, she's been around me.
Yeah.
And so they put us in isolation. And my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, is someone who like researches. Like, if you tell him something, he's on his phone looking up whatever you told him because he needs to know about it.
That's my mom. 100%. I'll call her instead of looking it up myself because like an anxiety rabbit hole. So I'm like, Mom, just give me the highlights.
Yeah, let me know. Give me those clip notes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So they put us in this room where there was like, it was a bed with the monitors and everything. And there were 2 entryways to get in and it was contained. I felt like a freaking X-Men being experimented on, because there was like 2 different entryways to get in there. And when people came in, they were in like full PPE, like sealed up.
Damn.
And
ET status?
huh?
ET status?
Yeah, it was. It really was.
Yeah.
And so I'm like laying there like, oh my God, what is this? Like, this is serious if they're coming in like this. And my husband, like, I look over at him and he just starts crying. And he's not someone who cries ever, like ever. And so I felt like, oh my God, I have to be strong. Like, I have to be the one that's strong in this because he needs me right now. And the doctor comes in, and they had given me Dilaudid at that point. And that's like an extreme pain reliever. And that's the only relief I had. Like, morphine wasn't doing it for me.
I was going to say that's stronger than morphine even, huh?
Yeah. And so the doctor, I hated this doctor. He was such a jerk. And he was like, well, we're not going to keep giving you Dilaudid. People get addicted to that. And I was just like, this is the only thing that's giving me relief. And he was like, we can't keep giving you that.
I feel like you hear this more and more, like where people are in pain because of the opioid crisis. But it's like, if you motherfuckers weren't over prescribing opioids in the first place, we wouldn't be in this position.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You were giving opioids to people that clearly, like, oh, I got a fucking splinter here to,
Yeah, let me give you some of this.
It's like, well, we wouldn't be in this. And people who really are in pain, like you,
yeah,
who like deserve to be drugged down and given some relief.
Yeah. So he was a jerk. They just told me like, oh yeah, you do have meningitis. We don't know which one. We have to do a series of blood tests. And like, it took probably the whole time I was in the hospital for them. And I was in there for like 5 days for them. At like on the 5th day is finally when they told me like, oh, you don't have the one that's contagious. So I was like, oh, okay. So anybody who came in had to be like fully like geared up. All the nurses would come in.
That had to be scary to just see as a patient sitting in your bed. Like, these people are afraid that I'm going to give them something.
Yes, it was. The pro of it was I didn't have to share a room with anybody. Like, I had my room to myself. So I was like, okay,
optimistic.
This is great. So while I was doing that, my hemoglobin dropped to a 6.
What is it? What's like a normal level?
If you're anemic, you're at a 12. So I want to say like good as 14, maybe. So I'm typically at a 12 because I'm anemic. So 6 is really bad.
Yeah.
And so they kept asking me like, are you bleeding? Is anything like whenever you go to the restroom, are you bleeding? And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm really tired. Like, I'm in pain still. And so they were really confused as to why. Like, why did your blood level drop and you're not bleeding? Like, what's going on? So I ended up needing a blood transfusion in that because they had to get it up. By the way, blood transfusions are amazing. They feel gross. But after that, I was like, oh my God, I felt like a new person.
I'm fucking Captain America now.
Yeah. And my husband was like, yeah, that's why athletes do it. Like, they do that.
You're like, my skin is glowing.
It's illegal. It's illegal.
Have you guys seen that movie, Jennifer's Body?
No.
With Megan Fox?
Yeah.
What? Yeah. I fucking love that. You got to watch that shit.
What is that?
Like, Megan Fox is like a demon vampire. I don't even know. And whenever she's not like feasting on a human body, she looks like shit. And then she like eats a person and it's like she's Megan Fox, like finest.
No, she's just back to like normal. Like.
Yeah, back to just being her normal, fine ass, unfair self, right?
Yeah. That's exactly what it was. But
they're like, oh shit.
Your husband's like, can we get another one of those?
Yeah.
Well, I was definitely not Megan Fox level.
Girl,
I was still in my gown.
Even better.
Yeah.
She's still twisting around with her gown.
Yeah. With my butt cheeks out. Yeah, but it was an intense time. So after I got out of the hospital for that, that's when the whole process started with them being like, okay, we need to figure out why your blood dropped. Something is going on. And your hemoglobin, sorry. And so that's when I started the process of doing all the blood work with the hematologist. And it was just like multiple rounds of it. And then finally she was like, I think you need to see a rheumatologist. And then that's when I was diagnosed with lupus, was with my rheumatologist. And that's where I had that like 176 level for my inflammation.
So like timeline wise, how long was this, like doing all the blood work, then finally sending you to the rheumatologist? Like what was the time, like months?
Yeah, it was from June to, I want to say November.
Damn. So in all this time, you're kind of still in pain and inflamed and just, they're just like, let us try to figure this out.
Yeah, I was just, well, for me, it was normal. I was feeling normal, like my normal, and I didn't know. And so being diagnosed was also partly like a relief for me.
I bet.
Because everything made sense. And I was like, oh my God, this is why this is happening. This is why this is happening. And I would say probably in 2011, I have this other thing called Raynaud's. And my fingertips will go completely white. Like my blood circulation cuts off and my fingertips will go white and numb. And it's when I'm cold. And when it comes back, it's really, really painful. And then they turn like blue and red. But that's associated with lupus too. There's two different types of it. And one of them is like, there's no reason why. And the other reason is because you have an autoimmune disease. And whenever I started with that, I was like, oh, it's because of the unknown reason. It's not because I have autoimmune disease. It's not because I have lupus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then finding out that I have lupus, I was like, oh, that's why I have this. Like, that's what that is.
All the puzzle pieces started to
Yeah.
That's a long process from 5 to 33.
Yeah.
In 2011, even like in your 20s, that's a long, that's exactly why your baseline was just pain.
Yeah. It was normal for me. Like, I'm just like, yeah, this is the way everybody feels, right?
And then that's why you're probably so exhausted too. You're carrying around, like fighting that constantly every single day.
Definitely.
That's insane. So once you're diagnosed and they figure out what's going on, what are your first like rounds of treatment? What does that look like? What do you start with?
So I started with what's called Plaquenil. It's a medication that reduces the inflammation. And then I have prednisone, which is a steroid on standby. So if I feel like something's coming on, I should take the steroids. It's not a constant thing because it's really bad to take steroids constantly. But Plaquenil, since I've been diagnosed, I've had to like up my dosage by 100% because my number is not getting better and kind of like staying the same baseline. The only thing with this medication is there are a lot of complications and side effects with it. So one of the things that I constantly have to do is have eye appointments because it can really affect my vision and the peripheral. It can blur out. So I only have like front vision. So I constantly have to do like the field of range tests. I'm supposed to do them monthly, but because I've been doing well, then I'm on like a 3-month thing with the eye doctor. It also can cause heart problems as well. So that's something that they had tested me for before I started taking that medication. And then the prednisone, which is the steroid, I just take it as needed. And I hate taking medication. I hate it so much, but sometimes I'll be proactive about it where if like I'm traveling somewhere, I'll make sure that I take it beforehand because sitting in the car with your knees up like that, I get out and I feel like the Tin Man from Wizard of Oz where I'm like, oh my God, I got to oil that. Yeah. And it's hard like sitting for a while or the way that I sit in a chair, I'm short. So if my feet aren't at the right angle, my knees kill me. Like they really hurt. So those are the main medications that I'm on and that I take to keep me like at baseline and at bay.
Your baseline's better, I'm assuming then.
Yeah, it is. It's been a lot better. So with surgeries, I didn't even touch that Melissa, whenever you asked me, but I had breast implants. And with those, now they're being put with breast implant illness. So people are getting sick because of them. They're linked to autoimmune disease.
What?
So,
yeah. He was telling me about that. I was like,
that's
holy
terrifying.
Moly.
So I got them in 8 years ago. And I didn't know anything about it. And when I met my rheumatologist, she was like, oh, you should consider taking them out. They're, and she told me all about it. And I was like, oh man, like that's crazy. I didn't know anything about it. And she's like, you could potentially feel better taking them out. And so I had thought about it for a long time. And finally this year, I was like, you know what? I'm going to try it. I am not emotionally attached to, if it's going to make me feel even a little bit better or anything happens, I'm going to do it. It's worth it for me.
Yeah.
And so I did get them out. And I was telling Melissa, I was like, the interesting thing is that the thing that subsided the most is my anxiety.
Is that weird?
Really?
It's crazy. Yeah. Like night and day difference. Like I still have anxiety. I'm still like high strung. Yeah. But like, that's something that I noticed the most, where I didn't have the physical illness from anxiety. Like I didn't have.
Crazy. Bonkers. You know what's funny is I have a friend who is like pretty hardcore about like anti-Botox because she got like Botox poisoning or something, and I'm like, I've myself and a lot of people I know are regular Botox users, so I'm always wondering like, is it like a 1 in a 5,000 chance with the breast implants that they're like, if a rheumatologist is suggesting that, I'm wondering how much like for a lot of people that's linked.
How often have you seen that?
Yeah, because I've never had an issue with my Botox, but like this one friend I have out of 40 people I know that get Botox regularly, she had an issue,
I've never had an issue with your Botox either.
You shouldn't, because I don't look my age.
It's interesting. I always think about that too. Like, is it like that person's individual chemistry with it? Like what is it?
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, you don't know until you see the difference, of what it was and what you are. So I have no idea, but I have no regrets with taking them out. I think.
Well, I mean, you had a good run, right?
Yeah, exactly. We had a good run. I still have them. They're just out of my body.
You could have shown us. Yeah, girl. They're actually right here behind my higher love candle.
They're my weighted.
It's like implants and higher love up in here.
You said they're your weighted what?
They're my desk weights.
Like your little paperweights?
Yeah.
It's huge. If you don't mind me asking before.
What was that?
They like huge?
They were huge for me.
They didn't look odd, if that's what you mean. Like some people you can tell and you're like, well, no, those are definitely not fitting your body.
No, more. Yes, I know a lot of people like that, but more like I'm so interested in this part. I'm interested in everything, but this is like,
she's like, lupus is great, but tell me more about your face.
Let's hear about that.
Well, like, did it feel, besides the fact you're like physically, I felt better with my anxiety. Was it like, oh shit, like this is weird? Because you had them, what you said, for about 8 years at that point?
Yeah. I felt like a weight was lifted off of me, like literally, and I don't know. I feel normal. Like I feel like my old self.
Yeah.
And I feel more confident now, which is interesting.
Yeah.
And it is
amazing. Changed.
What was that?
You've probably changed mentally over the last 8 years since first getting them to now. And so that I could imagine that you feeling different. You're more confident as a person. So
yeah.
I always tell people though, when it comes to that stuff, because like, I'm not going to say who, but I know someone who's like considering it right now and they're older than me. I'm like, fuck it, do it, man. Like I've been saying, just side note, for me, just turning 40, I'm like, I'm doing whatever the fuck I want to do to my body. And like, you know what I mean? Because people get real weird about that type of shit. Like, you don't love yourself. It's like, nah, bitch, I do. I just don't want to work out.
Just do your research and you're fine.
Knows me knows I love myself. That's not a question.
Yeah, just call Melissa's mom. She'll do the research, get the clip notes.
Jill's mom will be literally the person at my bedside taking care of me if I like.
She'll bring you some buntinis.
She will. I'll be like, it's too soon, Ruth, but
I can't quite eat yet.
I can't quite eat that yet. But anyway,
I would have so much anxiety. Like, knowing what the potential side effects are of your medication, does that give you anxiety? Because I would like constantly every like flutter, I'd be like, okay, what's happening?
Well, I don't know what it is. I've explained it to people and they're just like, I don't know what you're talking about. But sometimes it'll feel like my heart stops and like I physically am like, and then it's just nothing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know what it is. And so they're like, maybe you have a heart murmur. So they had like checked me and everything. And they're like, oh no, you're fine. You're fine. And so whenever that happens, I'm like, okay, I'm good. Like,
am I still
yeah, I'm
jumping
good.
jacks?
But because it's giving me other benefits, it isn't as like hard on my mind. Like whenever COVID happened, our lovely president was like, he said that this drug, the drug that I have to take, was the cure for it. And I don't know if you remember that.
Former president.
Former.
Oh, I was like,
at the time.
At the time. And so there was a shortage for the medication. And this is a medication that I have
motherfucker.
Yeah, this is a medication I have to take daily. Like if I don't take this, my numbers are going to go way up. So it was like every time we had to have Zoom calls with my doctor, she was like, are you having any trouble getting it? Like, let us know if you're having any trouble getting it. And that was super like scary for me because I was like, oh my God, how many people are going to listen to him and how many people are going to start taking it? And, you know, like, am I going to be able to take it? And that was really scary for me. So she even like gave me a little bit extra just in case.
This is a doctor you like too, obviously.
What was that?
The doctor you like too.
Oh, I love her. She's like amazing. She's super accessible to me. Like we have, like, I can message her and she'll get back to me the next day. So anything that I have where I'm like, I've had kidney pain, and with lupus, you have to be really careful with your kidneys. I would message her and she'd be like, go get your blood work. And she always has blood work on standby for me. So if anything happens, I just go and get my blood work. And then she messages me like right after it comes in and says like, oh, you need to do this, this, and this, or everything's fine. Like, and so I
have her.
Huh?
Thank God you have her.
Yeah, I am extremely grateful for her. She's amazing. She's been a godsend for me through this whole process.
This is your rheumatologist, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine living? I mean, we are, but like we're living in a place where you and I mean, shit, who knows how many other people are dependent on this medication to even be able to function. And we have a fucking moron that's telling people with no scientific backing that this is what they need. But he saves small business owners a lot of money, guys. So
yeah. Yes, I was so
he saves people money. So fuck health, right?
Not only that, is that like
that's what he said.
I have to be monitored because I'm on this medication. And I'm like, if people start taking this medication and they're not being monitored for it, like
that
they don't understand.
Anxiety producing for you.
Yeah.
Not only that, like if I'm understanding you correctly, like the impact of what it could cause, like throughout with other people, like what it could potentially cause for them.
Yes. Yes.
I'm so pissed right now.
Sorry.
No,
I was equally as pissed whenever I found out about it. I was like, what?
Are you joking? So your current like process and treatment. So it's pretty much the one constant medication you take every day, and then the steroid as needed, and that's the only treatment that you currently have. Yeah. And if anything ever happens where the prednisone doesn't work, then we evaluate like, okay, what do we need to do? And I'm pretty sure it would just be like increasing my medication, like my original medication, and then continuing the steroids until it goes. But I hate it so much. I hate taking the steroids.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, steroids in general are it's bittersweet. Like they help, but they also harm. I remember when I had like a weird eye thing, and I had to take them, and they were like on me. My doctor was like, you need to make sure you stop at this point and that you taper down. And it's like, that's not even, a pill form. That was just my drops, but steroids are not something to mess around with.
Yeah, that's
Definitely.
true. I feel like we keep going back to this, but what exactly, if you don't mind talking about, were your surgeries?
Oh, it was just my breast implants that I had removed. So I haven't had anything for lupus. I've had things like happen because of it, like my kidneys. I had a really bad kidney infection, and that's something that's scary with lupus because your kidneys can fail. And then potentially you have to either like get a new kidney, like a kidney donor. But that's why my doctor takes that really seriously if I do have those pains. But I was hospitalized for a kidney infection, and that was super intense. That was like, oh my God, I tried to stand up and I fell to my knees, and like, I couldn't even cry because it hurt to do it. Like breathing hurt. And I had finally gotten into bed. And I got out of bed and I collapsed, and I told my husband, I was like, I need to go to the hospital, and I need to go. And he's like, okay, let's get to the car. And I was like, I can't, like, I physically can't do it. And so we had to call the ambulance, and they had to like come back to my bedroom and like physically put me on there. Damn. And that was that was super hard. I went to the hospital and I was just in so much pain. Like, I had to pee myself, like, because I couldn't move. And like, God bless the staff for the hospital, because they would like come in, they would physically like tilt me over so they can clean like everything and do that. And I had to be alone through the whole process because it was during COVID that I was in the hospital for that. So I had to take the ambulance ride by myself. I had to do all that. And like, I was so scared and so like alone through that whole process. And it's super depressing and plays on your mental state a lot. And I actually left the hospital and I had to go back again because they didn't properly take care of me. Like it was a super intense moment, and it was really scary because also being there and having autoimmune disease and being like, oh my God, there's people that are sick here. Like, if I get that, like, that's it for me. I won't recover from it, because anytime I am sick, I'm sick for such a long time. And I have been hospitalized for the flu. Like, I have been hospitalized for little things like having a cold and having it escalate to something else. So like any little thing that I have can escalate to something so much worse.
Yeah.
And that's what's scary for me is like, whenever COVID happened, I was super like, I cried every single day, and I was like, oh my God, like if I get this, I'm going to die. Like, that's it. That's the way I felt, is like, if I get this, it's it for me. And like, my husband was super supportive through the whole thing, where he didn't do anything either. Like, he was by my side, and I just told him, I was like, I don't feel comfortable with you going anywhere. Like, I don't feel comfortable, because he has an amazing immune system. He never gets sick ever. If he is, he's like, I have a cough for 30 minutes and I'm fine. That's it. It's ridiculous. And so he wasn't worried about himself, but he was worried about whatever he would bring to me, and it would impact me different. So that was really, really hard whenever everything started. And fortunately, my job, like my boss at the time, was super supportive through it. And he's like, no, you stay home, like you work from home, do what you need to do. Like, let's keep you safe. And I really appreciated that, because I was like, I remember he's not, who I'm talking about, Melissa, but he's not very emotional in a sense. And I just cried to him, and I was like, I'm so scared. Like, so scared. I don't know what to do. And like, I don't want to lose my job. And he was just like, no, like, don't worry about it.
He's probably like, I don't know what to do. Stop crying. Stay.
Yeah. I'm uncomfortable with emotion.
I'm very uncomfortable, Cristal. Do you mind? Stopping?
And like, I just broke down to him, and I was like, I don't know. Like, I'm scared. I don't know what to think. We don't know anything. And like, the unknown was so scary for me.
I bet. Did you like throughout this whole process? I know you've had lots of like really scary moments. Did you ever think, or even now, are you worried that like this is going to kill you?
When I first was diagnosed, because I didn't know anything about it, I broke down and I was like, what is this? Like, it's something that isn't curable, you know?
Yeah.
And like my thing that popped in my head was like, Selena Gomez has lupus, you know? And I'm like, she had to have a kidney transplant. Like, she almost died because of that. And I remember whenever she told me, like, my heart just sank and she was like, you do have it. Like, and she started to go into different things. And I remember just like feeling present, but not, and hearing everything. And like, one of the things that she had said was like, it's going to be really hard for you to have a baby. Like, you know, miscarriages are very common with it, and you may never. And I was just like, well, I don't know if I want kids, but that's really hard to hear.
Like not even having the option.
Choice, yeah.
Yeah. And so, and my husband now was my boyfriend at the time. And I was like, oh, this is your out. Like, this is me for the rest of my life. Like, I didn't know like how bad I was going to be or like what my experience was going to be like. So sorry, at that time, I didn't know what to expect. And like, because I was living with this constant like pain and everything, I didn't like in my mind, I was thinking like, this is just going to get worse. Like, this is going to get worse. But fortunately, like I have had those hospital like things where it's like, it's really, really bad. But my day-to-day, I'm very grateful. Like, even the pain that I do have, I can do it. Like, I can do that.
Yeah, it's manageable.
It's manageable. Yeah, for me, you know, like, and I can turn myself on where I'm like, hey, I'm fine, guys. Like, let's get, like, I can do anything. But it can be scary. I get worried about the times where I do need to push myself, or I feel the need to push myself. Whenever I was in the hospital for like the meningitis, but that was before I was diagnosed, where I was like, oh man, like I could die, because meningitis is very serious. You can die from it. So seeing my husband and being like, oh my God, what did he just read? You know, like what's going on? That was really scary. Like the fear of the unknown is what hits you.
Have you met any, I know you tried the groups and stuff in the beginning. Have you met anyone that is on a similar path to you or has had similar experiences, or not quite, or hopefully this booming podcast will help you find somebody?
I have met 2 people. Okay. So one person, I was at work and I was going through like medical history reviewing, and I was like, oh my God, you have lupus. And I was like, I do too. And we happened to get diagnosed the same month.
Oh my God.
Wow. And we have the same rheumatologist.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
So she was like, oh my God, I love, like, who's your rheumatologist? I love mine. She's amazing. And I was like, I love mine. Like,
that's awesome.
We started talking about it and she was like, oh my God. And we just like vibed on that of like, what are your symptoms? And we had like similar things. And it was really nice talking to her and her understanding, like, yeah, I feel the same way. And you kind of feel like vindicated in that sense of like, yes, it does suck. Like, I do feel this way. It's not just me. And we didn't exchange info, which I wish we did. But I also met someone, the place I got my breast implants out. Mm-hmm. She was just like, I don't usually talk to people about it. And she's like, take my number, like text me like anytime you want to.
That's awesome.
And yeah. And it's really nice to talk to someone that you can relate to in that sense of like, you know how I feel. Like, God bless my husband, because like he's the one that sees it the most, where I'm like, I can't do this. I can't do this. And he's so supportive through the whole thing. And he, like I said, he's the one that sees it the most, like in me. And I hate it. I kind of feel like I've told him, I'm like, am I holding you back? You know, like, am I holding you back from the things that you want to do? And I have a lot of guilt in that sense, where I'm like, you should have someone healthy.
Shout out to Chris.
Yeah, I was like, your husband is amazing.
He is. You are not lupus though, Cristal. You have lupus.
I know.
So there's more to that. Like, I mean, first of all, I didn't even know for a while that you even had it. So you're just like, again, this beautiful human. And so you deserve Chris. Chris deserves you. And but I can get it. That was going to be one of my questions is, do you carry guilt? Because sometimes you do have to rely on other people, and it happens to be the closest ones to us. So it's going to be your husband. It's going to be whoever's usually in your four walls, your household. And so
100%
knows what he signed up for.
100%. And that's kind of our little joke, is like, whenever he does stuff and I'm like, are you kidding me? He's like, you know what you signed up for. And so like, that's what he tells me. He's like, I know what I signed up for. And I don't know what I would do without his support. Like, I always say he's the best human I know. Like, he's the best.
I bet it does feel good though, like touching back on the being able even if, you know, one person, you didn't get her number or his number temporary, to be able to be like, it's Melissa and I could sit and talk with you and have empathy and be like, man. And same with your husband, right? He sees it more than anybody, but physically those people are sharing what you're sharing. Yeah. So it's probably that instant, just like, no, you're physically feeling me, what I'm going through, instant closeness, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, when I talked to the most recent person I talked to, I probably stood there for an extra 45 minutes, and I was like, I even told her from the beginning, I was like, I have to go. And then like, we just stood there talking, and it was really nice to hear that, and like how welcoming she was. And like, I want to be that for people too, of like, hey, you know, like, I know it's freaking hard. Like, I know daily it's a struggle, you know, like these are the things that we go through. But I mean,
you are right now though. I mean, I think that's the thing we were like, we're not wrapping it up, but I do have to say, this whole time you've been talking, I'm literally just thinking about like our friend Marcus too. And you two are just people that like radiate joy. I've literally only like chatted with you for a second before this interview, and just now you're radiating joy, and you're physically feeling pain almost every day. And with Marcus too, like the same thing. And it just, I think so many people take their health for granted, you know, and by doing this, you really are, there are hopefully people are going to watch us and be like, oh shit, there's somebody else out there. I'm not comfortable talking about this to anybody. And here is someone openly being vulnerable and has said, I don't normally say this to people. And look at you, you're sharing it, you know, that's a resource in itself for people.
Yeah. When I said like, he's my rock, like, I don't talk to my parents about this. Like, there are people in my family that don't know that I have lupus. And like, my parents, they'll only know like if I'm in the hospital or doing anything. I don't, like, I feel like they don't need to worry about me. I don't want them to worry about me. Like, I need to worry about them. And like, they're my priority in that. So I never want them to be worried about me and worried about what's going on. I don't want people to worry about me. That's my big thing. Yeah. And even like when my husband does, I'm like, no, don't worry about me. It's okay. Like, I'll be okay. And there's some times where he'll tell me like, I'm worried. Are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, but he sees it. Like, he knows, like, he can see it on me, and he's very conscious of that.
Yeah.
That's probably comforting, you know, that you don't always have to use your words, and, you know, pride sometimes gets in the way for us. So it's nice that he can just be there and be present without you having to like ask for it.
Yeah.
So you also did a little bit of acupuncture, right?
Mm-hmm. I did.
And do you do anything else, like any other chiropractic stuff, anything?
No, I used to go to the chiropractor, but then I got really scared because someone was like, oh, one of my clients went, what did she say? One of her clients' family member went paraplegic because of a chiropractor. And I was like,
that actually happened in my family.
Yeah, see, I don't want to do it ever.
My family had a stroke that was caused by a chiropractor. My grandma was my great grandma was an OBGYN nurse, or like a labor and delivery, I guess is what you call it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Not an OBGYN.
Sure. Melissa, yes.
She
sure.
My mom,
she
whenever,
caught babies.
she had her hands up. Whenever I talk to her, my mom's like, no, Grandma Norris would be so mad at you. I'm like, damn.
Yeah. So I stopped doing that because I got really scared. But acupuncture, yeah, I've been trying that. I'm really open to anything that's like holistic. I'm like, I'll try it. Like, I'm still going to take my medication because I know that that's keeping me. But if it's something like my daily medication, but if it's something that can keep me from taking the steroid, I'm all for it. So like the acupuncture, I didn't do it as consistently because they wanted me to do it 2 times a week. And then for the first 2 weeks, and then once a week after that. But my insurance didn't cover it. So it was like $150 each time. And I was like, I can't do that. Like $300 a week and then $150 every single week. I was like, we'll wait till I get better insurance and then try it from there.
I'll poke needles in you for free, Cristal.
Thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah, do not take that.
Yeah.
Do not take that.
Listen, I trust her with my whole heart, but don't do it.
Yeah.
So do you have to have are you on any special diet? Is there anything that you have to are there anything that like will trigger any foods or anything that will trigger inflammation for you?
So for me, I haven't tied anything to it. Like there are things that they tell you not to drink, like to do, like you shouldn't drink alcohol. Like you shouldn't no, it's like,
Bye.
But I don't notice anything like significant for differences. I know someone, my massage therapist from Bakersfield, who is the best like massage therapist ever.
Shout her out. Let's get her some business.
Yeah, her name's Dora. She's from Bakersfield. You can let me know if you need her contact info, but she's very holistic. She's amazing. And she has lupus as well. And she manages it with no medication.
Wow. Does she do like herbal teas and stuff? She
does herbal teas, she does vitamins, and she changed her complete diet. Mm-hmm. She's actually the one that told me, like, you should try acupuncture. So she does acupuncture, and she was with this like Chinese medicine doctor. She's like, he's kind of mean, but he's really good.
I love my Chinese medicine
doctor.
Yeah.
And so she was like, he'll yell at you if you're not on your diet. Like, so she's on like.
Who's the doctor that's like very popular? Dr. Sebi. He's like an anti-inflammatory, like vegan.
Sebi?
Yeah, I think it's Sebi. Like a lot of people like really stand by what he says because a lot of what he is anti-inflammatory. Like get that mucus that causes disease and cancer out of your body, and it's like basically like an alkaline diet. You can't even fruits and vegetables you're not supposed to eat. Like.
Yeah. So she's helped herself that way. Mm-hmm. And I personally love food. Like I know. I have a passion for food. So that's something that I'm like, I'll just take the medication so I don't have to change my diet.
Yeah, live your best life.
Cristal and I start talking about lunch by like 9:30 every morning.
Which is funny because I feel like she's never excited about food.
I'm not, but I get hungry. I still have to eat.
She's always like, I mean, we can eat whatever. I don't care. I'm like, well, you're vegan. She's like, I'll figure something out. I'm like, dude, I've been thinking about this one thing all day.
I don't care.
Like, I'm craving this.
Like, I don't eat portions, but I need to like eat frequently.
Yeah.
You can't live on hip peas. That's Melissa, dude. She'll kill a bag of those. I've seen her kill a bag of those.
My little apple crisp. Yeah. My little dried apples.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, that makes sense though, because a lot of people I have an uncle who's like, I was just talking to Melissa about, who's pretty hardcore about what he puts in his body. And I think my mom's like, what, 62? I think my mom's gonna be 63 next year. He has to be at least 65, if not older. This motherfucker looks great, like a rock star. But I used to hate going to his house because I'm like, this fool don't got no snacks. Like hella quinoa, hella shit like that, where I was like, I want this as a kid, you know, but looks great health, very active, and you know,
got no snacks.
There's no damn snacks. There's some people that just want to live that like super healthy life. And at the same time though, I hear about really healthy people just dropping dead. So it's like, just live your best life.
It depends on what else you have going on in your life too. And there's genetic things that you can't even control. So you could be super healthy and have a freaking heart condition or something, you know?
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that you're not gonna, you know, something else isn't gonna take you.
That's true.
Yeah. So what questions do you have? Because I feel like I've kind of taken over because I know Cristal.
I guess my only thing that I want to talk about is we've talked a lot about your support system. And you know, you've been pretty open about like not really telling your family and a lot, but like have you ever had to kind of end friendships or maybe been like this person is not like super supportive and you know?
Fortunately, like I feel like now that I'm in my 30s, I have my solid foundation of friends that. And when I say foundation of friends, I'm like, I have 2 best friends that I constantly talk to daily. And then I have a little like surrounding group of friends where it's like the people that I worked with when I was young. And like, there's still people that like support me in everything I do, where they might not know like my day in and day out struggle, but they're still there for me. So I've never like, because I have that strong support system of friends, like I haven't had to lose anybody because of that. And I'm very fortunate like for that. They've been very supportive.
That's good.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think my last question would be, I guess in closing, because we don't have much more, but what would you tell somebody who's like just beginning to go through this process? Like, what should they be aware of in their body? What is certain things that you're like, hey, specifically ask your doctor to get tested for this or this?
I would tell them to listen to your body. Like, don't push yourself. Like when you're hurting, take a breather, take the time to heal yourself. I always thought like, I have to do more. Like because I have such active people in my life, is like, I have to keep up, but like go at your own pace, listen to your body, do what you need to do to keep yourself healthy. And tests wise, listen to your body, like be persistent about things. Like if something's wrong and they're telling you like you're fine, seek another opinion. Like, you know what's different. You know what's out of the norm for you. Unfortunately, like that was my norm the whole time. So I didn't know until something drastic happened. But know like that you're validated in the way that you feel. And like when someone tells you you're fine and like this is a one-off kind of thing, like be persistent about it.
I think it's important in general, right? We talk about this. We've done quite a few things on mental health too. So like therapists, doctors, anybody that you're going to for some sort of help, guidance, whatever, if it doesn't feel right or you don't feel validated, it's okay to change, to ask for somebody else. I know that that's not always an option. That I'm definitely not ignorant to the fact that there's not certain people that have certain insurances. There's not like a ton of options. And then the more specific certain diseases or illnesses get, it becomes harder to find multiple people, but just finding a unit of people, trying to find connections with people that are dealing with similar things. So you know what to ask, to Staci's point, so you know what to expect, so you can be an advocate for yourself. Because it's called practicing, right? These doctors that are out there, they're practicing. And so they're not always going to get it. Yeah. They're not always going to get it right. They're doing their best. I genuinely think that most of the doctors out in the world are there for the right reasons and doing the best that they can, but they don't always get it right. And they don't always, sometimes they'll cookie cutter certain situations, and it might have worked for their previous patient that had similar things, but that's not you. That's not me. That's not
and they're wrong sometimes. They're human beings. They're wrong sometimes.
And I will say, like, be persistent, because there can be wait lists. Like whenever I needed to see the rheumatologist, there was a year wait list. So it was going to be a whole year of me not knowing. And that was scary for me because I'm like, wait, you're telling me there's something wrong with me, but I need to wait a year. And so just talking, and like one of the doctors that we support, Melissa, like I was talking to him about it, and he's like, no. I'm going to call UCSF and I'm going to get you in.
I know what doctor that was.
Yeah, because he did his residency there. He called and he's like, I'm calling on behalf of so-and-so. Like, I'm a resident there. Like, I still practice there. I need her to see a rheumatologist. And so they got like, I think it was probably 3 weeks.
Wow.
It went to like from a year to 3 weeks that I was able to get in and see her. And that's like my rheumatologist. That's amazing.
And that's what you're putting out though, you know?
Yeah.
People are willing to help and support you because of like the energy you're putting out.
Yeah, I'm very grateful for him.
But I think to your point, like being persistent too, talking about it. I know that you don't talk about it a ton, but you know, I think just being vulnerable, this is what we want to encourage, is people to be vulnerable, talk about what's going on, because there are people, lots of people willing to help. And there's a lot more resources than we, available out in the world that we don't talk about or people don't even know about. There could be I'm sure there's some sort of grants out there that will help cover people's medical bills if it's something that they need help with. And then, like there's so many things out there that I think sometimes we just shut down and we're like, oh, it's not for me. It's not accessible to me or something.
Or it's a little harder to get there. Yeah.
And there are some cases where it feels impossible, but I don't believe that it's impossible. I think we just need to, build our own community. And that's what Staci and I are really trying to do with this, is build community, talk to each other. How can we help each other out? How can we eliminate the middleman a little bit? We don't always need to, rely on so-and-so. We can rely on each other to get things done. And that's exactly what you did. And to Staci's point, you're beaming this positivity and light, and you are a genuinely like beautiful human. And so other people want to see you thrive and be healthy and be happy and get the things that you deserve. Yep. And there's lots of people out there like you.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you.
I mean, there's only one Cristal. Yeah. I get to work with her.
There's also only one Cristal who was willing, even though you're not vulnerable about this or open about it, to come on this podcast and talk about it to help other people. So like, honestly, thank you so much.
Thank you.
For being willing, because I was even telling Melissa today, we talked on the phone, like, I know nothing about lupus. I don't even know what questions to ask because I truly don't know. So thank you so much for educating us and giving us the opportunity to talk to you.
And I can't stress enough that like everyone has their own journey with lupus, and like I'm very fortunate in my journey. Like I know that some people have it way worse than me, and it's tough.
Do you have this will be my final question, for the symptoms and stuff that you have, do you have any tips? I know you mentioned a heating pad earlier. Like, do you have any tips that you found that help certain symptoms for you?
The heating pad is my godsend. Like anytime I feel any kind of like aches or pains, and I know typically it's supposed to be the other way around with icing, but because of like all of this, I have an allergic reaction to cold. So I get hives with ice packs or like anything like that. Yeah. So
no sun, no ice.
Yeah. No sun, no ice.
No seafood.
Yes. If I get wet and the wind touches me, I break out in hives. Like it's ridiculous. Yeah. So heating pads are a godsend for me. Some people, it might be ice, but that's what helps me the most. And listening to your body. Stop whenever you feel like a little tinge of something.
Rest.
Like I know that that's big with people that work out. And I know people say like, oh, your symptoms will subside if you work out. And I'm like, well, if I can't get up to physically do the motions, then how? But everyone
generalize everything.
Yeah, it's so different for everybody. So for me, like resting, if you start to feel fatigue, like take a nap, turn everything off. Like I get so mentally like system overload where I just have to sit with no noise. Like I silence my phone. Like I can't even have the TV on. I'm just mentally done. So like rest, heating pad, have your tea. Like I do warm lemon water. Like that's what soothes me and calms me down. And CBD. CBD has been something that really, really helps me.
I love that.
Cool. Anything else?
No, thank you so much.
Do you have anything else that you want to share?
No, just I would say find someone that is your rock and hold on to them. Like once you have that person, it makes life so much easier.
Shout out to Chris.
I was like, love you, Chris. Well, thank you so much, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Life is a beautiful mess. A beautiful mess.